Uh, my name is Angela, and I'll be teaching you some of these Spanish verbs. So we're gonna start with the basic AR verbs. So some examples of AR verbs include estudiar, buscar, hablar, desayunar, cantar, dibujar, and tomar. And usually, in order to conjugate these verbs, they have to change based on the subject that they're matching, like either the yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellas, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. And then here we have our chart. In order to help you conjugate, usually using this chart is a very helpful form. Now, conjugations usually follow the same type of pattern. So here we have two examples of estudiar and then dibujar. Now for the yo form of estudiar, we have estudio, which ends in an O, as you can see here. And then for dibujo, it's the same thing. It's dibujo. For dibujar, it's dibujo, which ends in O. And basically, for most of these words, it's yo form. It follows the same power. Yo estudio, yo busco, yo hablo, yo desayuno, canto, dibujo, y tomo. The next conjugation form is the to form or the you form, the you, which in all these AR verbs, it will always end the same. I, AS, AS, I, AS, or AS. So, like estudiar, it ends in estudias, tú estudias, ends in IAS. But for dibujar, it ends in just AS, dibujas, so it's always similar ending AS. Um, and it's the same pattern for every other word. Buscas, hablas, desayunas, cantas, tomas. It's all two forms, AS. And then we have the singular them form, or they, which is él, ella, usted, which is she, he, and they. And this usually has as well the same ending, ends in A. You can see these two. So for estudiar es estudia, él estudia, or for dibujar es dibuja, él dibuja. And for that form, it follows the exact same pattern, will always end in just A. So, él busca, él habla, él desayuna, él canta, y él toma. Same thing for any AR verb. And then we have the us form, the nosotros, which again ends similarly with MOS for AR verbs every time. So for estudiar, we have estudiamos, and then for dibujar, we have dibujamos. For all AR verbs, the exact same. Buscamos, hablamos, desayunamos, cantamos, and tomamos. And then we have the vosotros form, which is usually only used in Spain. There haven't really been instances in where other Spanish-speaking countries that use this form, but they will have similar endings every time with is or ais. So for estudiar tenemos estudiáis, which ends in is, and then for dibujar tenemos dibujáis, which also ends in is. It's the same pattern for all of these. It doesn't really change. And then we have the plural he, she, and they form, which ends in an, as you can see both here. So estudiar, we have estudian, ellos estudian, which is plural. And then for dibujar, we have ellos dibujan. And again, it's the same pattern with all of them. Oh, they will always have AR, usually will always have the exact same ending. And now the next thing we have our ER and IR verbs, which are a little different, still really similar to the AR verbs. Now here I have some ER verb examples: ver, comer, vender, and entender. And then we have some of the IR, which is escribir, vivir, and compartir. The rules here are pretty similar. Match the verb conjugation. Is any word, any one of these. Yo, tú, él, usted, nosotros, ellos, ustedes. Except the nosotros and vosotros will have a different ending, whether it's IES, whether it's EIS, my bad, or just I or IS. So here we have one ER example, and here we have one IR example. Comer is our ER example, and escribir is our IR example. And basically, conjugation, the exact same thing. Yo, they both end pretty similarly with the O. Yo como, it could be yo bebo, yo vendo, yo entiendo, with an O at the end every time. And then for IR, yo escribo, yo vivo, comparto, which is ends in O. It's the same thing. And for the tu form, ends in ES, ES. So comer is comes, escribir es escribes. Same pattern. Bebes, vendes, entiendes, escribes, vives, y compartes. And then we have the él, ella, usted form, which is come, which just ends in regular E. It's the same thing for escribir, ends in regular E. So comer es come, él come, escribir es escribe, él escribe. Same thing for all these. Vende, entiende, escribe, vive, comparte. And then we have our nosotros form, which ends in MOS. MOS, pretty simple, same. Nosotros comemos. Escribir es nosotros escribimos. And then again, nosotros bebemos, nosotros comemos, vendemos, entendemos, escribimos, vivimos, y compartimos. Always ends in MOS. Now, this is where it gets a little different. The vosotros form does change. Instead of it being with an AIS, it's just EIS or IS. There's no A. So coméis and escribís. But that's really the only difference between them, between the AR verbs and ER and IR verbs. And similar for the ellos, ellas, ustedes, both. We have ends in EN instead of AN. With the AR verbs, it ends in AN because these are ER and IR verbs, they end in EN. So for comer, we have comen. Escribir, we have escriben. Ends in EN. And next, we have our irregular verbs. These are tough, even for me, to understand conceptually and learn for them, but I'll try. So, these verbs don't follow the rules, as you can see by the charts. They don't look anything like the last few, except for estar. But even though they changed kind of different, the rules kind of different, still pretty easily to remember, and I'll show you how it works. Ir means to go. And so its conjugation is the yo form is voy. The tu form is vas. And then we have the él, ella, and usted form, which is va. And then we have the nosotros form, which is vamos. And then we have the vosotros, which is vais. And then we have the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, which is van. It's a little complicated, but that's how that would be conjugated. And then we have ser, which, as you can see, there's not all of them start with an S. So for ser, the yo form is soy. The yo form is soy. The tu form is eres. which this means to be, by the way. The el form is, el es. The nosotros form is somos, and the MOS because it's plural. MOS over here for vamos too for the ir. And then we have the vosotros, which is sois. Again, that's not really used in Spanish. It's just Spain that uses that one. And then for ellos, ellas, and ustedes, we have son, which as you can see here, an, on. Here's also an. Then we have estar, which is also means to be, but this is usually used for like the state of feeling, to be feeling something, from what I know. The yo form is estoy, yo estoy. Tú is the tú form is tú estás. The él, ella, and usted is está. And then it's singular in a way, like all these it ends in singular. And then we have the nosotros, which is estamos, again the MOS. The estáis vosotros form, which is again in Spain. Then we have the ellos, ellas, and ustedes, which is están. These are a bit complicated, but they're very helpful and they're really helpful to memorize. You can always just use the chart to memorize or write it down somewhere, but it'll come normally at some point to remember them. And next we have the state changing verbs, which I believe these are the last ones. Stem changing verbs are verbs that this middle letter, like pensar, querer, preferir, entender, cerrar, and empezar, that middle stem is what will be changing. They change from usually an E to an IE. So, like our examples here, pensar, querer, and entender, which entender we've seen as an ER example. Usually the easiest form to remember where these stem changes happen in a chart is by looking at a boot shape. You can see it kind of makes a boot shape like this. And usually you can remember that that's where that stem changes. You have this outer one, it stays as an E, but here in the middle it stays as I. It changes to IE. Like the outer ones where it just stays. So, pensar means to think or to plan. And the yo form is pienso, which here changes yo pienso. We have the tú form, which is piensas. We've got the él, ella, usted form, which is piensa. Él piensa, tú piensas, yo pienso. We have the nosotros form, which ends MOS, same pattern as the other verbs. Pensamos. And then we have the vosotros form, which can used it ends in IA, and it's just like AR because that's an AR ending. And then we have the ellos, ellas, ustedes, which is piensan, and here it changes. Ending, because it's an AR, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that changes is this beginning vowel part. And then we have our querer, which is, as you can see, an ER changing one. So the endings will be a little different. For the yo form, we have quiero, and as you can see, this middle part changes, but our ending stays. The ending rule stays. And then the tú form, quieres, middle changes, end stays. Él, ella, usted, quiere, middle changes, end stays. Nosotros form, the entire thing stays the same. Same rule applies for the ending, MOS. And the E in the middle does not change. Then we have quieres, queréis, which is a vosotros form. Nothing changes, same rules apply because it's outside. It's outside the boot, which is why it stays the same. And then we have quieren, which is the middle changes, but the ending stay. And then quieren is the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. Changes because it's, again, inside the boot. Anything inside the boot has a stem change. And then we have our entender verbs, ends in er. And here from the yo form, it's entiendo. Here we have middle changes, ending rule stays. We have same thing over here for the tu form, entiendes, middle changes, end stays. We have the el, ella, usted form, entiende, middle changes, end stays. Because again, only the middle changes when it's inside that boot shape. That's the easiest way to remember. And then we have the nosotros form. MOS ends in MOS. Middle does not change. It's entendemos. Nosotros entendemos. We have the vosotros form. Middle does not change. Again, outside the boot. Middle does not change. Ending rules still apply. And it's entendéis. Same thing. And then we have entienden, which is inside that boot. So the middle changes, but the ending rule still applies, which is entienden. Ellos, ellas, ustedes entienden. Thank you for listening. And yeah, that's the entire lesson. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.